Welcome to the second lesson of Module 2 of the Technical Skills. Following the previous lesson on the basics on budgeting, we will today get into sources of funding. Welcome back to our lesson on sources of funding. In our last lesson, we covered the main types of funding sources. Today, we will focus on how to choose the right sources to meet your specific needs. First, it is important to understand the different types of funding sources available and their requirements. You can choose between traditional sources like banks and venture capital, or alternative sources like crowdfunding and grants. Next, we will look at real-life examples of companies that have successfully utilized different funding sources. Then, we will discuss the concept of building a funding mix, which involves using a combination of different sources to meet your financial needs. After that, we will have a brief activity to help you determine which sources of funding are best suited for your business. And to further solidify your understanding, we will go through a mini case example of a company that has effectively utilized a funding mix. Finally, we will wrap up the lesson with a summary of the key points and discuss the deliverable for this lesson. So, let's dive in and learn how to choose the right sources of funding for your business. The learning objectives for this lesson have been designed to help you become more familiar with different sources of funding for youth projects. By the end of this lesson, you'll be able to recognize the pros and cons of each type of funding and determine which sources are most realistic and suitable for your own project. You will also learn how to create a funding source map that accurately matches the needs of your project. With this knowledge, you'll be able to confidently secure the necessary funding for your youth project and bring your ideas to life. Now, let's dive into the different funding sources and their unique advantages and disadvantages. So, what are grants? These are funds given by the government, foundations, or NGOs to support projects. Let's dive into the pros and cons. The pros include can provide significant funding, builds credibility, and encourages structured planning. The cons include competitive, requires paperwork and reporting, and takes time to report and receive funding. Grants can be a great source of financial support for projects, providing the necessary resources to bring ideas to life. They can also help establish credibility and structure for these projects, ensuring their success. However, grants can also present some challenges. The competitive nature of grant applications can make it difficult to secure funding. Additionally, the requirements for paperwork and reporting can be time-consuming and tedious. It can take a significant amount of time to report on the progress of the project and receive the actual funding, making the process somewhat lengthy. Despite these challenges, grants remain a valuable source of support for various initiatives. They offer an opportunity for organizations and individuals to receive the necessary funding to bring their ideas to fruition and make a positive impact in their communities. What is crowdfunding? Raising money using online platforms. Crowdfunding has become an increasingly popular method for individuals and organizations to raise funds for various projects and initiatives. Through the power of the internet, people from all over the world can contribute to a cause they believe in. This has revolutionized the way we think about fundraising and has allowed for greater accessibility and inclusivity in the process. With the rise of social media and digital marketing, crowdfunding has become a powerful tool for individuals to share their stories and connect with potential supporters, allowing for a more personal and direct approach to fundraising. Whether it's for a personal project, a charitable cause, or a business venture, crowdfunding has opened up new possibilities for anyone looking to make a positive impact in their community and beyond. Let's see what exactly is a sponsorship/partnership. Sponsorship means when a company or organization supports your project in exchange for visibility. Partnership can also mean receiving in-kind support in the form of goods. Sponsorship and partnership are both forms of support for a project, but they differ in the way they are carried out. While sponsorship involves a company or organization providing financial support in exchange for visibility, partnership may involve receiving support in the form of goods or services. Both types of support can greatly benefit a project and help it reach its goals. However, it is important to carefully consider the terms and conditions of a sponsorship or partnership to ensure that it aligns with the project's values and goals. A strong and mutually beneficial relationship between the project and the sponsor or partner can lead to a successful collaboration and a positive impact on the project. A donation is a selfless act of giving, motivated by kindness, empathy, and a desire to make a positive impact. It can come in many forms, such as money, goods, or time. Donations are often made to support a cause, help those in need, or contribute to a better future. They can be given to various entities, from individuals and families to large organizations and NGOs. The beauty of a donation lies in its sincerity and the willingness to help without any expectation of receiving something in return. And now, what is a fundraising event? Events that are organized with the aim to collect funds and can include concerts, bake sales, talent shows, and other creative ways to raise money for a cause. These events serve as a platform for individuals and communities to come together and support a common goal. From small local gatherings to large-scale productions, fundraising events bring people together for a meaningful purpose. They not only raise money for important causes, but also create a sense of community and connection. So, whether you're singing your heart out at a benefit concert or buying delicious treats at a bake sale, know that you're making a difference and contributing to a greater cause. Choosing the right source of funding is crucial for its success. We have categorized potential sources into 4 main areas. For small local projects, we recommend focusing on attracting donations, small grants, and sponsorships. These can be great options for community-based initiatives that have a more limited scope. If you are working on a creative project, we suggest considering crowdfunding, sponsorships, and small grants. These sources can provide a larger pool of funds to bring your vision to life. For educational or training projects, we recommend exploring grants, partnerships with NGOs, and in-kind donations. These can provide valuable resources and support for your educational endeavors. Finally, for community campaigns or events, we suggest exploring fundraising events and sponsorships. These can be a great way to engage the community and raise awareness and funds for your cause. How do we build a funding mix? The best approach is often a combination of different funding sources. This was if one source fails, you still have resources. The best part? It shows funders that you are proactive and a backup plan is already there. A diverse funding mix is essential for any organization, providing stability and security for future endeavors. It allows for adaptability and resilience, preparing for any potential setbacks. By showcasing a well-rounded funding strategy, funders will see your dedication and preparedness, increasing their confidence in your project. So, let's explore the various funding options available and create a comprehensive funding mix that will set us up for success. For today's activity, write down your project idea, estimate your needed budget, list at least 3 possible funding sources, and gather all the info in a table. This is your funding source map. Once you have completed your table, take a step back and evaluate your options. Consider the potential pros and cons of each funding source and how they align with your project's goals. This will help you make an informed decision on which source is the best fit for your project. Remember, securing funding is a crucial step in turning your project idea into a reality. So take your time and carefully consider your options. Good luck with your funding source map and your project. Today's lesson summary. Funding is the fuel that makes projects possible. Main sources: grants, crowdfunding, sponsorships, donations, fundraising events. Each has pros and cons. Choose based on your project size, timeline, and capacity. A mix of funding sources is often the safest approach. Mapping your sources helps you plan realistically and avoid gaps. Now that we have a better understanding of the main sources of funding, let's take a closer look at the advantages and disadvantages of each. Grants, for example, provide a large sum of money but can be highly competitive. On the other hand, crowdfunding allows for a wider pool of donors but may not yield as much funding. Sponsorships can provide financial support as well as exposure for your project, but they also come with certain expectations and obligations. Donations, while often unrestricted, may be inconsistent and unreliable. Finally, fundraising events can be a fun and engaging way to gather funds, but they also require a lot of planning and effort. It's important to carefully evaluate the pros and cons of each source and consider your project's specific needs before making a decision. And remember, a mix of funding sources can often be the most secure and effective approach. So be sure to map out your sources and create a realistic plan to avoid any potential gaps in funding. To create this lesson deliverable, you firstly need to create your funding source map by listing your project idea and estimate the needed budget. In addition, identify at least 3 funding sources and write down pros and cons for each. This map will serve as your foundation for your future fundraising strategy. Now that you have your funding source map, it's time to start planning your fundraising strategy. With your project idea and budget in mind, you can begin researching potential sources for funding. Make sure to carefully consider the pros and cons of each option, as this will help guide your decision-making process. Remember, this map is a crucial step in setting yourself up for success in your future fundraising efforts. The second lesson of the Technical Skills module has now been completed. You are halfway into completing this module. Keep up the good work.